Hey James, how you doing?
Hey Audrey, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I wanted to go back to something from this past week, if I may. We didn't get a chance to ask you about it yesterday, but I know you went into the season hoping to have Journey back as the kick returner, and obviously personnel's changed. But how would you assess kind of the kick return unit so far? And we saw you guys catching some fair catching some kicks on Saturday. What was kind of the thought process behind that?
Well, we spent a lot of time this off season studying analytics, and the analytics say that no one is really getting it back to the 25-yard line consistently. So unless you're playing an opponent where they're not kicking it deep and not and they don't have appropriate hang time, it doesn't make sense to return it. So each week we've always done this, but it's been magnified here a little bit more recently. If our opponent doesn't kick for the appropriate hang time or distance, then we'll bring it out because we feel like we have a chance to make a big play. But if they're kicking with the appropriate hang time and distance based on what we have studied off of film that week, then all of the data shows you that you should just fair catch it and take it at the 25.
Mark Brennan and Greg Pickle, you're on deck.
Hey, James, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Mark?
I figured out the audio thing, so I'm doing great. We get a chance to talk to Taylor tomorrow. I'm wondering if you can talk about the job he's done with your receiving core and just how he's done in terms of transitioning into the program. You always talk about that whole family kind of vibe. How has he kind of meshed in with everybody? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, as we all know, I think one of the challenges that we have had, mostly for good reasons, we've had a decent amount of turnover at that position. Guys that have gotten promotions. Obviously guys that have gotten coordinator jobs and things like that. But it's created some challenges for us. Stability in that room, and it's affected recruiting a little bit as well. So we had a lot of conversations about that before he got here. Obviously his familiarity with the Big Ten is helpful. His familiarity with me and my familiarity with him is helpful. And then I think he's done a good job with our players. Our players, really like him. I see him improving. And I think he's got a chance to do a really good job for us. We're really excited about him. He's adjusted really well with the staff, and his family seems to be adjusting really well in the community under challenging circumstances, obviously. But that's a position obviously that we need stability. We need a little bit more production. I think he can provide all those things for us through development, through recruiting, and some consistency.
Greg Pickle and Ben Jones, you're on deck.
Good evening, Coach. Thanks for your time. Yesterday in your opening statement, you said you weren't able to get the run game going and it made you guys predictable. Beyond being down your top two guys at that position right now, what else have you seen on film that hasn't allowed you to get that going the way you'd like to?
Yeah. So your point. Obviously, losing our two guys that were at the top of the depth chart coming into the season, that's part of it. And then we just need to be more detailed with everything we're doing from a fundamental and from a technique standpoint. And that's obviously magnified the better opponent you play. The better opponent you play, you better be as detailed as you possibly can be with your footwork, with your fundamentals, with your understanding of what we're trying to do. And obviously the better you are with your footwork and techniques and fundamentals to the point where it becomes second nature, then now you're able to play fast and aggressive and come off the ball. So combination of that and combination of opponent.
Ben Jones with Tyler Donahue on deck.
Awesome. All right. I hope I don't have to shout this time.
I got you clear, Ben. Thank you.
Awesome. In your eyes, what does a freshman have to do to earn your trust and confidence on the field? And is it a challenge or modified at all when maybe you're forced to play these guys and don't have a choice and kind of have to learn to trust and have confidence in them at the same time?
Yeah. Yeah, it's obviously, the guys that can do their job consistently in practice. Most of the guys that we bring in here, they're able to do it, a certain number out of 10 times just based on ability. And it's no different than punting or kicking field goals. I mean, there's a lot of guys that can make a 40-yard field goal, but can you make 9 out of 10? Can you make 8 out of 10? It's about consistency. And I think that's very similar for all these guys at every one of these positions. It's, how consistently can you do your job to build the trust of your teammates and build the trust of the staff. And that is from a physical perspective. That is from a fundamental perspective. And then obviously if you're a running back, that deals not only with, being able to run the ball, but that deals with protection, that deals with ball security. And then to be honest with you, it's a lot of the off the field stuff. If you're always having to be all over a guy because he's not mature enough to handle his business academically, that affects you. It affects your belief, that you're going to be able to depend on this guy, when he's supposed to. And then your point about, usually you're fortunate enough, depending on depth, to allow that guy to earn the trust over time. And at other moments, based on the circumstances you may be in at the time, you may not have that luxury, and you just got to go with it. And that's really kind of what we've done at the running back position and some other positions. We've been able to play them a little, not as much as we would like, but they have a responsibility in that as well. So that's kind of across the board. I think, that's where Parker, it was very obvious. He just had a very mature approach, from the time he got here. Keandre, I would say that as well. So there's a number of guys. I guess, Curtis would fall into that category a little bit too. There's a number of guys, but it's all of it. It's what they do on the field consistently, mentally, physically, all of it.
Tyler Donahue and Thomas Franco, you're on deck.
Hi, good evening, James. Thanks for the time.
Hey, Tyler.
If I could kind of follow up on that freshman question, you've worked with wide receivers at different levels of this sport. How rare is it to have two come in, whether they're rookies or freshmen, ready to contribute like this and get into the starting lineup this quickly? And if these guys, have success in starting roles with the amount of eligibility they have ahead of them, how does that help you kind of cross some things off your personnel plans, not just in 2020, but moving ahead as well?
Well, yeah, I think it's a combination of their talent and their maturity, and the trust that they've been able to earn from the staff and from their teammates. But it also talks about, the lack of depth, that we had at that position, or some of the injuries that we've had, or some of the things that have limited guys to even be able to play this year. So it's a combination of factors. Takes nothing away from them because they've done a good job and they've earned this opportunity. But there's a lot of factors that go into it. Moving forward, we're still pretty thin at that position in terms of guys that have played and played in big time games and made big time plays. So we need to develop that. I think the running back position is a good example. You can go from having, what people consider one of the best running back rooms in the country to things changing real quick. And that's why, recruiting and developing is always paramount.
T. Frank, followed by Nate Bauer.
Hey, James, seems like we're all on the same thread here. I want to ask you about that. We had, I think, a certain opinion or thought about what your team might be coming into the season based on the number of guys you had back, and circumstances have obviously changed. So how would you describe your team this year? Do you think you have a veteran team or a young team, or, obviously can be something in the middle there?
Yeah, I don't think we ever had a veteran team. We only had eight seniors, I think, returning scholarship seniors in the program. So we never had a veteran team, but we were talented and we're explosive, and had a bunch of guys coming back that had played, and played significant roles. But again, that changed quickly. And I think this year, because of the circumstances and because of COVID and everything that was going on, and because it was kind of so common, I think, it just, that's kind of how this year is, where I think under normal circumstances, you lose those types of players from your program. It's, it's bigger news. But I would have never said that we were a veteran, mature squad. But we had a bunch of, players returning with game experience, and obviously some of that has changed, before the season started, and some of that has changed, since the season has started, and has had an impact again. But at the end of the day, this is the circumstance we're in, and guys need to step up, and as coaches, we need to get them ready.
Last two questions, Nate Bauer, followed by New Bias.
Hey, James.
Hey, Nate. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
I'm going to jump on the same train that T. Frank was just on. From a morale perspective, who is it more difficult to withstand those absences on, the players or the rest of your coaching staff?
Well, I think it's probably probably the coaching staff, because the coaching staff has been around long enough that they know, and have been through these situations in the past, and how special opportunities are. They don't come around every single day. So when they come, I think coaches can recognize it a little bit more. Sometimes with the players, they haven't experienced anything but Penn State, which I think is tremendous. But coaches have experienced so many different places, so many different schools, so many different communities, and then so many different experiences. Kind of like what Thomas Frankar was talking about, is you got situations where, you got a veteran team of 25 seniors, you got a team of 15 seniors, but ultra talented or whatever it may be. And you can kind of put the pieces of the puzzle together in your mind of what it's going to look like and how it's going to play out. But as that puzzle gets changed around or pieces get eliminated, it has an impact. And I think coaches recognize that. I think players do to a degree, but they just lack the experience that the coaches do. So, players are very resilient. After games, I think they typically bounce back quicker than the coaches. And I think they have, and I think we both do have so much faith and confidence in the next man up, but there's also the value of the guy that's already done it before, rather the unknown commodity.
Last question to New Bias, Will Warren.
Coach, last time we talked, you mentioned your relationship just with Locks. Overall, as you prepare this week and you just go through that, how difficult will it be to not have the normal interaction you may have? Like, but you guys probably can't do dinner. The handshake would be weird. Just every kind of thought about just how different those interactions are overall.
Well, not that different. To be honest with you, New Bias, I've never in 25 years, I've never been out to dinner with an opposing coach. You're so busy in meetings and everything the night before. So that doesn't happen. I know it does with maybe ADs and some other things other sports, maybe when they visit. And as close as you may be with people in the off season, during the season, everybody's just so locked into doing their job. And before the game, you say the pleasantries and, wish people good luck. And then after the game, nobody really wants to hear from each other. You shake hands and you say good luck and stay healthy. And, if you've won the game, it's kind of uncomfortable because you don't know what to really say to the guy. And if you've lost the game, you don't want to hear from them. So you show respect, which is what I try to always do, but I keep it short and sweet because no matter what end of the spectrum you're on, whatever you say, nobody really wants to hear. So you just keep it respectful and pleasant and shake hands and keep it moving is how I've always tried to approach it. It's always strange too. It's like sometimes after big wins, you got a huge smile on your face. And then, I think sometimes I'm misinterpreted because I try to get that off my face as soon as possible because I don't want to go up to a guy with a huge smile on my face, when I just try to be as respectful as I possibly can of everybody in those circumstances because it's challenging. I know as media and I know as fans and I know as everybody, and I know media, you guys try to stay, more neutral, but it's hard. You lose a game and it breaks your heart. And I know even the media in here that stay neutral, some of the media that's been on our beat for a long time, it probably hurts you too. You probably don't want to admit it, but it probably hurts. And I know it does our fans. Trust me, I know it does them. So for me, New Bias, I try to handle things the right way. And I think you find out a lot about people when times are tough and when adversity is tough. I learned the most about myself. I learned the most about my team. I learned the most about my staff, and I learn a lot about the fan base. You learn a lot about everybody, and I just try to stay as consistent as I possibly can and treat people the way I would want to be treated, and always try to represent this university and this community the best I possibly can.
Thank you very much, Coach. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, you guys have a great night and stay safe.